Do you really control your desires, or do they control you? Every decision you make, what you chase, who you pursue, even how you see yourself, may already be ruled by an invisible force. Lust isn't just a fleeting thought. It's a silent commander shaping your life while you think you're in charge. What if the choices you think you're making freely are actually dictated by something you're barely aware of? Lust is a force so quietly powerful that it often goes unnoticed while dictating your decisions, actions, and even your sense of identity. Yet, when most people hear the word lust, they reduce it to something purely sexual. This narrow view misses the larger picture. Lust is a hunger, a persistent craving for stimulation, validation, and escape. And the world you live in knows exactly how to exploit it. Every time you scroll through social media or click on an ad, your desires are being carefully studied and manipulated. Modern society thrives on creating and feeding your cravings. Advertisements sell more than products. They sell feelings, promising that buying or experiencing something will make you feel complete, attractive, or accomplished. But these promises are empty. What they offer is fleeting at best, leaving behind a sense of dissatisfaction. That emptiness you feel isn't a personal failing. It's the system working as designed. If you stopped wanting, the entire machine would collapse. The entertainment industry amplifies this dynamic. Hypersexualized media normalizes instant gratification, presenting it as the ultimate goal while sidelining patience and discernment. Quick bursts of pleasure may feel good in the moment, but they come with a hidden cost. Over time, repeated exposure to such stimuli builds tolerance, meaning what satisfies you today won't satisfy you tomorrow. You find yourself needing more excitement, more validation, more stimulation to feel the same spark. This creates a loop where instead of appreciating life's smaller joys, you begin chasing extremes. The sweetness of a moment is replaced by the bitterness of constant longing. Social media is perhaps the most pervasive example of this cycle. Each like, share, and comment triggers your brain's dopamine system, giving you a brief sense of validation. For a moment, you feel seen, acknowledged, and important. But as soon as the notification fades, so does the feeling, leaving behind a craving for more. The algorithms are designed to exploit this. They don't just track your preferences. They are engineered to keep you coming back. The cost, your time, attention, and even your sense of self. Over time, this endless pursuit of validation leaves you feeling disconnected from what truly matters. This manipulation isn't just a personal struggle, it's a societal weapon. The promise of connection becomes a tool for control. Behavioral psychology explains it clearly. When compulsions dictate your decisions, true freedom becomes impossible. The reward pathways in your brain are exploited to prioritize immediate gratification over meaningful, long-term goals. Lust ensures you're always chasing satisfaction without ever reaching it. Whether it's through social validation loops or addictive behaviors, the system profits from your endless seeking. This cycle doesn't just affect your habits, it shapes your identity. Cultural messages tie your sense of worth to how desirable, successful, or validated you appear to others. When lust becomes a measure of your value, it stops being a feeling and becomes a lens through which you see yourself and the world. You may start believing your worth depends on how many people find you attractive or how much external validation you receive. This isn't connection, it's isolation disguised as relevance. Consider a common scenario. You post a photo on social media. The notifications start rolling in, likes, comments, shares. For a moment you feel important, even cherished. But as the engagement slows, so does the high. You find yourself checking your phone repeatedly, hoping for more reactions, more proof that you matter. This cycle leaves you emptier than before, yet you're compelled to repeat it. The pull of lust pretends to fill you up, but it only leaves you starved for meaning. But is this your fault? Not entirely. The systems around you are deliberately designed to exploit your vulnerabilities. Humans naturally crave meaning and connection, and lust pretends to offer both. Those moments of indulgence, whether it's chasing likes, buying into trends, or seeking external validation, aren't rooted in your true needs. They're rooted in the system's need to keep you wanting. Here's where the external influences connect to the internal loop. The more you chase external validation, the more you lose touch with your internal sense of fulfillment. Modern life is built on distractions that pull you away from the present moment and the clarity needed to make intentional choices. The more you want, the harder it becomes to focus on what truly matters. Recognizing this loop is the first step toward breaking free. The hard truth is that lust doesn't simply emerge from within you. It's cultivated by forces that rely on your dissatisfaction to survive. Society profits from your hunger, which means it's invested in keeping you hungry. Lust is less about desire and more about distraction. Every moment spent chasing something external pulls you further away from what could bring lasting fulfillment. But you don't have to stay in this cycle. Recognizing the structure is the first step to breaking free. Lust may feel like a personal struggle, but it's also a tool of control. The more you understand it, the less power it has over you. Imagine reclaiming the energy you've poured into fleeting pleasures and redirecting it into something meaningful. What could that look like for you? This isn't about rejecting desire altogether. Desire is a natural part of being human. But when it's distorted and manipulated, it stops serving you and starts enslaving you. Lust in its societal form is a trap, one that thrives on keeping you in a cycle of seeking without satisfaction. Reclaiming your energy and focus is possible. The cycle isn't easy to break, but each small step toward awareness and intentionality brings you closer to freedom. The world is designed to keep you distracted, to keep you wanting, but every time you resist, you dismantle a piece of that system. Each moment of clarity is a step toward reclaiming your life and your choices. So, the question is, what would it take for you to break this cycle? What would it cost to reclaim your power? That's where the journey begins. Lust isn't a new problem. It's been a challenge for humanity since the beginning of time. Every culture, every era has grappled with the weight of desire and the struggle to control it. Philosophers, sages, and spiritual leaders across history have pointed to one undeniable truth. Our desires have the power to shape us, but they also have the power to destroy us. Lust, with its ability to dominate the human mind, has long been seen as both a test of character and the battlefield on which self-mastery is either gained or lost. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, argued that human behavior is largely driven by unconscious desires, with sexual impulses at the center. He saw lust as fundamental to our actions, motivations, and even creativity, but also warned of the dangers of repressing it. Left unexamined, it could manifest in unhealthy ways, creating inner turmoil and even neurosis. Freud believed that our struggle with lust is hardwired into our biology, a force bubbling just beneath the surface, not easily controlled. Carl Jung, Freud's one-time collaborator and eventual critic, offered a different perspective. While he acknowledged the power of unconscious drives, Jung believed in confronting and integrating them. He introduced the concept of individuation, a process of transforming destructive impulses into something greater. For Jung, lust wasn't simply a force to suppress or obey, it was a tool for growth. By facing and understanding these impulses, individuals could achieve self-mastery, and unlock their higher potential. Long before Freud and Jung, ancient philosophers wrestled with these same ideas. Plato used the metaphor of a charioteer controlling two horses, one representing noble aspirations, the other base desires, to illustrate the soul's constant struggle. Lust, he argued, dragged the soul into chaos, distracting it from the pursuit of truth and virtue. Balance, guided by reason and wisdom, was the key to rising above its pull. Centuries later, Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, offered a pragmatic approach. Surrounded by indulgence and temptation, he emphasized internal discipline as essential to freedom. In Meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." For Marcus, controlling desires like lust wasn't just about personal virtue. It was about achieving inner peace and resilience. To let impulses rule you was to become their slave. To master them was to be truly free. This tension between desire and self-mastery is vividly illustrated in the story of Odysseus and the Sirens from Greek mythology. As Odysseus sailed past the Sirens, whose enchanting songs lured sailors to their doom, he ordered his crew to plug their ears with wax and tie him to the mast. He wanted to hear the seductive melody, but knew he couldn't trust himself to resist. This tale captures the timeless human struggle, the recognition of desire's allure, and the deliberate steps needed to overcome it. Religious traditions have also grappled with lust, offering practical tools to address it. Hindu philosophy, for example, teaches brahmacharya, the practice of moderation and self-control. Excessive indulgence in physical desires, according to this belief, weakens both body and spirit. By conserving vital energy and channeling it into higher pursuits, spirituality, creativity, and selfless service, individuals achieve clarity and liberation. What seems like restraint is actually a path to freedom. Christian mystics similarly framed lust as an obstacle to spiritual connection. The Apostle Paul wrote about the inner battle between the law of the Spirit and the law of sin, the latter symbolizing base desires that enslave the human spirit. Overcoming lust was seen as essential for those seeking a deeper relationship with God, clearing the way for devotion and purpose. Buddhist teachings, meanwhile, identify desire, or tanha, meaning craving or thirst, as the root cause of suffering. Lust, in this context, extends beyond sexuality to include attachment in all forms. To crave a person, object, or outcome is to bind yourself to dissatisfaction, as these things are impermanent and will inevitably slip away. The Buddhist path emphasizes detachment, not as inaction, but as a way to transcend the endless cycle of grasping. Overcoming lust frees the mind to live in the present, unburdened by constant wanting. Even Friedrich Nietzsche, often misunderstood as a champion of indulgence, saw the danger of being ruled by desire. He believed true power came from self-mastery. The Übermensch, or Overman, he described, is not someone who suppresses desires, but someone who transforms them into energy, creativity, and strength. Without discipline, however, desire controls you instead of the other way around. Why have so many thinkers, from Plato to Nietzsche, centered their philosophies on confronting lust? Because it's universal. Lust is within all of us, a force that can elevate or enslave. These thinkers recognized that real freedom begins when we're no longer at the mercy of our desires. Mastering lust isn't about denial, but about conscious choice, aligning life with purpose, whether that's virtue, inner peace, or enlightenment. Throughout history, overcoming lust has never been just about resisting temptation. It's been about aligning with something greater. Lust acts as a mirror, revealing our weaknesses and offering a chance for growth. To confront it is to confront ourselves in the most honest way possible. Now, how does this ancient wisdom hold up under the scrutiny of science? What happens when we examine lust, not as a spiritual challenge, but as a neurological process? Let's explore what modern research reveals about the cycle of desire and its implications for self-mastery. Did you know your brain is wired to trick you into craving what won't satisfy you? It sounds harsh, almost unfair, but it's the truth. Right now, somewhere in your brain, your dopamine system is working overtime, convincing you that the next hit, the next click, or the next indulgence will finally give you the satisfaction you're looking for. But it never does it? Why is that? Imagine this. You're scrolling through social media late at night, telling yourself you'll stop after one more post. Minutes turn into hours, and you're left feeling drained, not fulfilled. Or maybe you've reached for a snack, thinking it'll make you feel better, only to find yourself reaching for another, still unsatisfied. These moments aren't just random, they're rooted in how your brain works. Let's talk about dopamine. It's often called the pleasure chemical, but that's not entirely accurate. Dopamine isn't about pleasure, it's about craving. It's the chemical that tells your brain, that thing? Go after it. When you anticipate a reward, whether it's food, a win, a social media notification, or even someone who catches your eye, dopamine lights up like a signal flare. It doesn't care if the thing you're chasing is good for you or not. It just cares that you want it. And every time you act on that craving, you strengthen a feedback loop in your brain. You're teaching your mind what to look for, what to crave, and what to focus on. Think of it like carving a path in the ground. Each time you indulge, the path gets deeper, making it harder to avoid. This is why behaviors like endlessly scrolling on your phone or binging on shows feel harder to stop over time. Your brain remembers the surge of dopamine and marks it as worth repeating. The more you repeat the behavior, the stronger the craving becomes. Over time, these compulsions become automatic, almost like default settings in your brain. But here's where it gets even trickier. Your brain adapts to the rewards you're chasing, a process called tolerance. When you're exposed to the same level of stimulation repeatedly, your brain compensates by reducing its sensitivity to it. The dopamine hit you got the first time doesn't feel as intense the second or third time. To get the same effect, you need more excitement, more stimulation, or something more extreme. This is how the cycle begins. You're not just consuming, you're escalating, chasing bigger rewards just to feel normal. Take social media as an example. At first, a few likes or follows might feel good. There's a small rush when someone acknowledges your post, a spark of validation. But soon, those small interactions aren't enough. You start craving larger numbers, more attention, and more powerful reactions. Social media platforms are designed to exploit this system. The algorithms aren't neutral. They're crafted to keep you scrolling, liking, and sharing, pulling you deeper into the cycle. And it works. Companies profit while you're left feeling increasingly empty and unsatisfied. Another example is pornography, which thrives on this same loop. The overstimulation from explicit content creates one of the clearest examples of where tolerance leads. What might seem exciting at first quickly becomes just another baseline. Studies show that repeated exposure to highly stimulating content rewires the brain over time. What once satisfied no longer does, leading to a search for more extreme content to recapture the initial rush. The cost? Everyday experiences lose their spark. Connections with others feel dull. Even simple joys become muted. Dr. Anna Lemke, a psychiatrist and expert in addiction, explains this dynamic in her book, Dopamine Nation. She describes how, in a world overflowing with instant gratification, Many of us have unknowingly tipped the balance between pleasure and pain. When your brain is constantly overwhelmed with reward, each hit of pleasure, each dopamine surge, it fights back. It numbs the effects of pleasure altogether. Over time, you lose sensitivity not just to the stimuli causing the surge, but to other areas of life: deep love, genuine joy, even peaceful presence. This overstimulation doesn't just create dissatisfaction, it creates deep psychological pain. This isn't just a mental issue, it's physical. Compulsive behaviors, whether it's endlessly consuming content, indulging in material desires, or letting impulses guide you, rewire the structure of your brain. The neural pathways associated with these behaviors grow stronger, while others weaken from neglect. Over time, your brain learns to reach for these old, reliable pleasures during moments of stress, boredom, or loneliness. The more you give in, the more automatic this response becomes. So, how do you break free? The first step is understanding what's happening in your brain. Awareness is key. The more conscious you are of how dopamine manipulates you, how it attaches meaning to certain actions and reinforces compulsions, the less power it has. The less you identify with your cravings, the easier it becomes to disrupt the pattern. The problem isn't that you crave, it's that craving controls you. But here's the good news. The same way your brain was wired into these cycles, it can be rewired out of them. This is called neuroplasticity, the ability of your brain to form and reorganize connections based on new habits and choices. To rewire your brain, you have to stop feeding the old pathways. That might mean limiting exposure to overstimulating material or taking breaks from systems designed to exploit your attention. Each time you resist an impulse, even for a moment, you weaken its power. Each conscious choice redirects your energy toward something better. And here's the insight most people miss. The opposite of indulgence isn't deprivation, it's presence. Reclaiming your ability to focus on the present moment doesn't just break habits. It reawakens parts of your mind that have grown numb. You stop working against yourself and start working alongside your natural needs for connection and meaning. Freedom doesn't come from suppressing desire entirely. It comes from seeing desire clearly, understanding its role, and choosing when to engage with it and when to let it pass. Once you understand how your brain works, you can stop playing the game. You can step back, reclaim your energy, and invest it in something lasting, something real. This brings us to the next step. Understanding the mechanics of desire is only half the battle. The real question is, how do you harness that same energy and turn it into power instead of compulsion? Let's explore that next. What if the very energy that enslaves you could be turned into your greatest source of power? It sounds impossible at first, doesn't it? How can something as chaotic and consuming as lust be anything other than a destructive force? But here's the truth. The same energy that keeps you trapped can also set you free. Lust isn't inherently your enemy. It's a raw, intense, and deeply human power. The question is, are you letting it control you, or are you controlling it? This is where transmutation comes in, the art of taking that raw, untamed energy and transforming it into something purposeful. Think of lust like unrefined ore. It's raw, heavy, and untamed, but within it lies the potential for gold, if you know how to extract it. Lust, at its core, is pure energy. It's desire in its most primal form, pulling you towards something with overwhelming intensity. But energy itself is neutral. What makes the difference is how it's directed. The same force that drives lust can fuel creativity, ambition, and even spiritual growth. Transmutation isn't about suppressing or ignoring that energy. It's about refining it. Instead of letting it drain you, you can learn to harness it and give it a higher purpose. Here's where the challenge begins: sitting with your own discomfort. Observing desire without acting on it feels unnatural. Your instincts scream at you to chase the feeling, to satisfy the craving. It's far easier to give in than to resist, let alone transform. But growth starts the moment you pause. When you choose to hold your ground instead of reacting, that chaotic energy becomes malleable, something you can shape rather than something that shapes you. Take Leonardo da Vinci, for example. Known for his unparalleled genius, da Vinci believed his ability to discipline his desires was key to his creative power. His choice to practice celibacy wasn't about avoiding temptation. It was about redirecting his energy into his work. That energy, once untamed, became the fuel for his masterpieces. The paintings, inventions, and studies that still shape the world today were born from his decision to channel his desires into purpose. Nikola Tesla offers another striking example. Tesla famously chose solitude and self-mastery over indulgence, believing it unlocked his mind's full potential. He saw sexual energy as a powerful force that, if misdirected, could scatter focus and drain creativity. By controlling his impulses, Tesla channeled his energy into groundbreaking innovations that redefined human progress. Was it easy for him? Number. But the results speak for themselves. Even Carl Jung, the renowned psychologist, saw desire as a core life force. He referred to it as the libido, not just in a sexual sense, but as the energy that drives all of life's pursuits. Jung believed that when this energy is misunderstood or misused, it leads to destructive patterns and suffering. But when confronted and redirected, it becomes a catalyst for growth. He called this process individuation, integrating the fragmented parts of yourself, including your desires, to create a unified, powerful whole. The principle is simple. The energy driving lust and the energy driving greatness come from the same source. You can't eliminate it, nor should you. But you can decide how to use it. Will you spend it chasing fleeting stimulation, or will you channel it into something meaningful? Every time you resist the urge to scatter your energy, you strengthen your discipline. And discipline isn't deprivation, it's liberation. It's choosing alignment with your highest purpose over being dragged around by your impulses. Imagine what happens when you stop scattering your energy. What could you achieve if you focused it? Picture taking all the time, attention, and effort spent chasing temporary highs and redirecting it into something greater. Instead of slipping further into distraction, you gain clarity. Instead of draining your life force, you channel it into ambition, creativity, and deeper connection. That's the power of transmutation, the alchemy of turning something raw and chaotic into something magnificent. Tantric traditions provide a vivid example of this process. Contrary to popular belief, Tantra isn't about indulging in desire recklessly. It's about refining it. Practitioners learn to harness sexual energy and channel it toward spiritual and creative power. Through controlled breathing, conscious attention, and focused intention, that energy is elevated. It becomes a source of clarity and vitality, not a force of consumption. Instead of suppressing desire, Tantra teaches respect and transmutation, turning it into fuel for transcendence. This isn't hypothetical. It's a transformation that many have experienced. When you stop being ruled by desire, you start to rule it. This discipline changes how you carry yourself. You become someone others notice, not because of superficial attraction, but because of the presence you develop. Energy that once scattered outward now radiates inward, creating a sense of power and purpose. The beauty of this process is that it doesn't just transform you, it transforms your perspective. You realize that freedom isn't about indulgence, it's about alignment. Lust promises fulfillment, but delivers exhaustion. Transmutation takes that same energy and turns it into vitality. It's not about rejecting life, it's about living fully, with intention and focus. And here's the secret. Transmutation isn't just for spiritual practitioners or great thinkers. It's for anyone tired of being controlled by compulsions. Lust only controls you if you let it. The moment you stop letting it dictate your choices, you reclaim your freedom. But this process isn't automatic. It requires effort, focus, and patience. You have to sit with yourself, confront your impulses, and resist the easy path of indulgence. Yet, the more you practice, the more you realize this isn't a loss. When you stop scattering energy, you gain power. When you stop chasing distractions, you create space for fulfillment. When you master lust, you master yourself. So the next time you feel that pull of desire, ask yourself, is this serving me or is it stealing from me? What could I achieve if I redirected this energy? These aren't easy questions, but answering them is the first step toward transformation. Now imagine applying this control beyond yourself to how you view others and the world around you. Could overcoming lust lead to deeper, more meaningful connections with others? Let's explore that next. What if you could connect with others without needing to possess or consume them? It's a question most people never ask themselves because they assume that relationships and desires must go hand in hand. Society has conditioned you to see people as something to acquire, as though your worth is determined by who you can attract or hold. Lust fuels this illusion, turning human connection into a transaction, a trade of attention for validation. But when you step back and examine what lust does to your relationships, you'll see how it distorts your ability to truly connect. Lust doesn't seek to understand. It seeks to take. What if there's another way? Lust acts like a distorting mirror in relationships. It reflects back not the person in front of you, but a projection of what they represent to you. Maybe they symbolize validation, excitement, or escape. Lust convinces you that this person, or their attention, will complete you. But in reality, it's never the person you're chasing, it's what they can give you. When you view someone through this lens, you're no longer engaging with them as a human being. Instead, you're interacting with an image, a fantasy, rather than their reality. This distortion keeps you from seeing them clearly and from forming a genuine connection. Lust promises connection, but what it really delivers is possession. It operates from a sense of lack, whispering, "I need to have them. I need their attention. I need them to want me." This mindset leads to shallow intimacy and fleeting interactions. Why? Because when you're focused on taking, you can't focus on understanding. And understanding, not ownership, is the foundation of all real connection. Now, contrast this with intimacy. Intimacy doesn't seek to possess. It seeks to understand. Where lust consumes, intimacy witnesses. It doesn't look at someone as a commodity to acquire or a trophy to display. Instead, it embraces the person as they are, not as a projection of who you want them to be. Intimacy invites presence, real attention, real listening, and a real desire to know the person in front of you. While lust says, "I want them," intimacy says, "I want to know them." Imagine this. You meet someone who seems perfect on the surface. They're charming, attractive, and everything you think you've been looking for. But as time goes on, the excitement fades. You realize you were never really seeing them. You were seeing what they represented to you. Now picture a different scenario. You meet someone and instead of focusing on what they can give you, you focus on who they are. You listen, you're present, and you let the connection unfold naturally. Over time, you discover layers of depth and authenticity that create a bond far stronger than fleeting attraction ever could. This shift, from transactional to genuine connection, is the payoff of moving past lust. Overcoming lust changes how you see others. It allows you to view people not as objects to be used, but as mirrors, reflecting truths about yourself and the world, or as companions walking alongside you, not commodities to own. This shift transforms relationships. Instead of approaching someone with the need to fill a void within yourself, you approach them with curiosity, respect, and compassion. When you're not blinded by lust, you're able to see people for who they truly are, not just how they make you feel in the moment. This concept of viewing others through the lens of presence rather than possession isn't new. Spiritual traditions have been teaching this for centuries. Consider the idea of agape, often described as selfless or unconditional love. This is the kind of love that doesn't ask for anything in return, the type that sees the soul instead of the surface. In Christian tradition, agape is often held as the highest form of love, a love that transcends physical desire and touches something eternal. It's about connection, rooted in giving, understanding, and simply being with someone, rather than needing to take from them. Buddhist teachings also speak to this idea in their emphasis on presence and detachment. In Buddhism, craving and attachment, forms of lust, are seen as barriers to true connection and peace. Craving clouds your ability to see clearly, wrapping you in illusions that convince you happiness lies outside yourself, in another person or experience. But genuine connection comes from presence, from seeing someone without grasping at them. It means letting go of the desire to control or consume and instead embracing what is real and unchanging: the soul, the essence, the being. This transformation isn't easy. It takes effort to move beyond the surface level, to stop reducing people to their appearances or their value in your life. But when you do, something shifts. You begin to notice the ways in which lust doesn't enrich relationships. It dilutes them. Lust is fleeting. It always wants more. But intimacy grows over time. It deepens. It allows for truth to emerge, for connection to become something that feels expansive rather than transactional. Overcoming lust doesn't mean you stop desiring. It means you start desiring differently. You stop chasing fantasy versions of people and start appreciating them as they are. You recognize the difference between wanting someone to complete you and wanting to share life with them. Relationships stop being about possession or projection, and instead, they become partnerships built on authenticity. This applies not just to romantic relationships, but to friendships, family, and even the way you interact with strangers. Every connection becomes richer when you remove the lens of lust and replace it with presence. Here's the truth. Overcoming lust isn't about restriction. It's about choosing presence over possession, depth over distraction, and truth over fantasy. In doing so, you don't lose love. You rediscover it. And when you rediscover love, you also redefine freedom. Not just freedom from lust, but freedom to live more fully, more openly, and more authentically. Lust may feel like freedom. It carries the rush of indulgence, the thrill of fulfilling a craving, the temporary excitement that breaks through the monotony of daily life. But what if true freedom lies beyond it? That idea may feel contradictory at first. How could something so instinctive, so universal, be the very thing that keeps you chained? Think about it. How often has acting on lust, whether for validation, stimulation, or control, actually brought you fulfillment? Real, lasting contentment? The truth is, almost never. Lust is a fleeting promise. It takes and takes, but it never gives back in the way you hope. Lust controls your choices, often without you realizing it. It steers your attention, pushes you toward distractions, and feeds the illusion that the next click, the next glance, or the next interaction will finally satisfy you. It distorts relationships, reducing deep connections to surface-level transactions. It drains your energy as you chase empty highs that dull your sense of presence and purpose. Over time, it reveals itself as another kind of bondage. You act not because you're free, but because you're compelled. Here's where the stakes become clear. You can either continue living under its influence, letting your mind, actions, and relationships be defined by fleeting desires, or you can overcome it, and in doing so, experience the liberation of clarity and self-mastery. But this isn't about demonizing desire. To overcome lust doesn't mean suppressing every human impulse or rejecting emotion altogether. It means transcending the unconscious pull it has on you. It means seeing the world as it truly is, undistorted by compulsions disguised as freedom. Spiritual traditions have long understood that overcoming lust is about achieving a higher state of awareness, of clarity and presence. Buddhism, for example, describes lust and craving as a thirst that binds you to the cycle of suffering. The more you chase desires, the more they control you, leading to dissatisfaction. But the way out isn't to reject desire entirely. It's to transcend its control by recognizing the illusion for what it is. Desire feels urgent, but it rarely delivers the deep connection and fulfillment it promises. The moment you step back and see this clearly, you begin to unbind yourself from its grip. Christian thought offers a similar perspective. Overcoming lust is often viewed as a path to awakening a deeper connection to God. Transcending one's desires aligns the mind and heart with divine presence, clearing the distractions that cloud them. You're not rejecting your humanity by overcoming lust. You're stepping into its fuller, higher expression. Instead of being ruled by urges, you enter a state of communion with yourself and with something greater. Overcoming lust isn't just a spiritual concept, it's also practical. Think about how much of your time and energy is spent chasing things outside yourself. Lust binds you to the constant search for attention, validation, or pleasure. Even when you achieve what you're seeking, it's never enough. The satisfaction fades quickly, and you return to the chase, draining your vitality and scattering your focus. But imagine what happens when you redirect that energy inward. Imagine holding desire without being possessed by it, using it instead as a source of strength, creativity, and connection. This shift is not about resisting your humanity, it's about reclaiming it. As one tradition explains, overcoming lust is not about diminishing one's humanity, but about embracing it fully. It involves rising from the grip of compulsion and entering a state of clarity, moving from craving to communion and from reaction to revelation. This is liberation, not living in constant reaction to desire, but rising above compulsion and seeing the truth that lies beyond it. Imagine walking through a labyrinth filled with illusions, each glittering moment of promise, whether it's a craving for attention or a fleeting temptation, seems real, seems urgent. Most people spend their entire lives lost in this maze, believing these fleeting desires are the key to happiness. But the person who overcomes lust finds the way out. They see the illusions for what they are and step into clarity. Overcoming lust means looking beyond the surface, beyond the immediate pull of craving, and stepping into something deeper and more real. What happens then? What happens when you hold desire without letting it possess you? The answer is simple: freedom, true freedom. Not the impulsive thrill of indulgence, but the steady, grounded freedom of knowing you're in control. of knowing you're no longer chasing illusions, but aligning yourself with what truly matters. Overcoming lust isn't about less, it's about more. More presence, more depth, more clarity. It's about becoming fully human, rising above compulsion, and entering a space where fleeting emotions no longer rule you. One of the most profound aspects of this transformation is how it changes your relationship with yourself and the world around you. You stop being a prisoner of your desires. You stop reacting mindlessly, pulled in every direction by cravings that were never meant to satisfy you. Instead, you choose. You act intentionally, aligned with your values and what brings lasting meaning. You walk through the world with a new sense of power, not power over others, but power over yourself. Here's the key insight. Overcoming lust doesn't mean you lose anything. It isn't about deprivation. It's about clarity. It's about harnessing the same energy that once drained you and using it to create something fulfilling. When you do this, the craving stops controlling you. You stop feeling scattered, disconnected, or incomplete. You rise above. You see clearly. And in that state of clarity, you gain back the energy and presence that were once lost. Think about what that clarity can do, not just for you, but for the way you experience life. When you see beyond the illusions, the endless loops of craving and seeking, life opens up in ways you didn't expect. Relationships feel more genuine, decisions feel more aligned, and that inner void, the one that lust and craving could never truly fill, starts to dissolve. You realize the connection, aliveness, and wholeness you were chasing outside were already within you all along.